Hello and welcome to the second episode of Parivartan Darpan. Today's topic is a very unique topic, something which has affected every one of us across sectors, across various fields. Today's topic is something which has really caught up now post the lockdown. One thing that has happened, and it's common across all sectors, is digital transformation. We can say either it's a natural transformation or a forced digital transformation, but be it education, the social space, food delivery, payments, finance systems, everything has been affected or has been positively impacted by digital transformation. In today's topic, we will try to analyze how COVID has brought about a digital transformation in the social space, what needs to be done, what has already been achieved. And for that, I will introduce the speakers for today. We have Dr. Jayant Kumar. He is the head of programs at CASA. Our second speaker for today is Dr. Ram Narayan Ghatak. He is the senior vice president and head of operations at Access Development Services. And our last speaker for today is Mr. Pankaj Anand. He is currently the director of programs and advocacy at Oxfam India. So I have the first question for all our panelists today. In these last 3-4 months, all organizations, we have been focusing on using digital technology to address the challenges posed by COVID. What has been the experience of your organization in this regard? Has your organization been able to, align itself strategically with this kind of transformation and embrace the digital wave which has come about? Over to you, Jayantji.
The whole issue of digital transformation or digital technology integration into the work of social service organizations is a major challenge, and this challenge has come about more so pronouncedly after the COVID-19 episode, which has forced us to look into, as you were very rightly saying that. In my organization, we have been fairly able to integrate as far as our global partnership is concerned, as far as internal organization is concerned, and at the level of the national partners like larger partners. But when we have to relate with the community, there is the challenge which we are facing. We have, during the COVID, experimented at a larger scale internally with our partners together. So we have done reasonably well that we were able to see face to face together, take decisions and pass on decisions faster and action initiated. But the moment you reach to the community level, we work with the most marginalized, the widow, the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, the Mahadalits, the handicapped, the elderly, the girl children, and these are living in the most remotest of area. There we are finding it a great difficulty in how to move forward, because our PMS systems were based more manually as well as a little bit of computer database manually. The whole strategy has to undergo a complete change, and that's the area where we look forward to for input from our other partners, that how do we use, without compromising our strategy and our values and principles, how do we continue to engage our community in that area. And the second important thing is that the second level at the community, which goes beyond the organization, is the panchayat. Panchayat is also, we are finding, because we deal so much of work, the community deals with panchayat. Panchayats also do not have that facility available with us. They don't have the wherewithal, the signals are weak, the right kind of mobile phones are not there, the internet is there, but it doesn't work. So panchayats also are, by and large, I think this is another area where we are finding it difficult. The line department workers, which are Mitanes, the health workers, ASA workers, and panchayat secretaries, so many other grassroots level workers, those who are government employees, they don't have the skill, they don't have the equipment, so how will they communicate? So the community is strengthening, work at the community level, work with the panchayats, and work with the state government level in line departments. That is where we are struggling a lot. And I think I would rather conclude here by saying that partially, yes, within the organization and in certain levels of our stakeholders, we have been very successful, and it is really helping us a lot in integrating. And there is a great possibility. We have to see integration of digital technology in a long-term perspective. We see it as a long-term perspective, and we have to plan accordingly. But we have to do a lot more as far as the interface between the organization and the community is concerned, especially in a mobilization strategy, especially in a strategy which empowers people to demand and ask for their own rights and entitlement. So we are in the cusp, I would rather say, Shahrukh, and we still have to go a long way. Thank you.
That was a very good insight. Looking at the same perspective, Mr. Pankaj, what would you feel that Oxfam, has it been able to embrace it, seamlessly, or has there been any hurdles or challenges?
There are only two ways of looking at digital technology like any other technology. One is that it does not offer the same experience as a face-to-face or as a community meeting, etc. The second is that it is faster, it is economical, it has the potential for wider outreach. Both views coexist. But none of these two views are absolute truth in themselves. In terms of how we have used digital technology in Oxfam India, I would say that it has been an evolutionary journey for Oxfam India. It is still evolving. There is a lot to learn for us. But I can tell you that we are on a steep learning curve. In many ways, we are ahead of the curve, I would say. When I look at the large swath of CSOs in India, I just want to give you two examples. One example in the context of Oxfam India is pre-COVID. The second example is post-COVID. The pre-COVID example is that we had piloted, designed, and rolled out a technology which was audio and text message based, simple technology. And it was basically a technology to connect government, CSOs, coalitions, and end beneficiaries. So the name is Adhikar Vani. So it is basically made of two words, Adhikar, rights, and Vani is voice. And the idea was that we disseminate information to the end beneficiary in various languages, including the local languages of the people, and to disseminate information about government schemes, government projects, government programs, and how they can access it, etc. Now, post-COVID, we realized we were using it, but post-COVID, we realized that our use and reach through this technology has suddenly gone up, so much so that a lot of CSO coalition and even the government, they said that we want username and password. We want to use this technology to transmit information to people. And we are freely giving it to anybody who is asking for it. And a lot of government agencies, I can tell you, for example, the state disaster management authorities, the line health departments, etc., are using this technology. And this is a freely accessible technology. Just people have to tell us that they want it. The second is that probably you will know that Oxfam India has a signature event which we call Oxfam Trail Walker. It is a 50-kilometer and a 100-kilometer walk on difficult trails in Mumbai and Bengaluru. Now, in the current context, we can't do a physical trail walker. What we thought is that even for the next 6 months, 8 months, we can't do it. Why not make it a virtual trail walk? And we made it a virtual trail walker. And now suddenly we realize that the market is not only linked for us in India, but the whole global market is a market for us. And I want to end by saying one thing, that like everyone else, including you in HDFC, one of the big concerns for us in Oxfam India and more generally for other CSOs is about data protection. There is a lot of confusion about what happens to data security, etc. So I end here now, Shahrukh.
Great. Thank you so much for these insights. Moving on to Mr. Ghatak, what would you say, regarding access development services? Most of the work over there is anyways, using the digital space. So what would be your thoughts on this question?
As you know that Access Development Services is a livelihood promotion organization, and accordingly we work in areas which are very far flung, which are very disconnected, infrastructure wise very inadequate regions of the country. So in such cases, our donors, the people or the community with which we work, they are not very digitally connected or digitally savvy. So when we started this corona, outbreak, and therefore these certain things are forced on us. So we are almost in a way forced to change our strategies and some of the program deliverables. That how do we do it? How do we carry out our routine kind of activities or programs? How do we engage with the donors and other kind of stakeholders for this fundraising, for new program development and all of that. So in a way, it was a kind of revolution for us and forced us to adopt some of the practices which we normally do not do. For example, in our regular work, we have a tendency to go to the physical places, talk to the people, talk to the community, handhold them. So at one point in time, it was almost unthinkable that we can manage all of that through a remote kind of connectivity with some laptop and some phones, etc. So that was very, very unthinkable at some point in time. We are now organizing training programs of the communities, etc., on virtual kind of basis, setting up their kind of in a kind of place where they're sitting, and then again we are switching on our laptops, etc., and carrying out with our training programs. Many of our meetings earlier used to be held in a physical condition, like going with the community, sitting with the community, etc. Nowadays we have transferred them to virtual kind of meetings. We are WhatsApp kind of chats and the communication. At one point in time, it used to be thought some kind of informal kind of communication medium, but now it has transformed to a kind of a communication medium which is formal and which is quick, which is very efficient, and all of that. We can quickly share all that with many people, with many stakeholders, including our farmers, etc. Travels we have totally stopped. Then again, our FPOs, as you may be knowing that we are into a very large way or a major way into FPO promotion and all that. So sale of the produce of the farmers or the FPOs used to be very difficult. So we are doing it now online and through online kind of platforms, using and receiving money also online and all of that. And then we are reaching out for our new program developments. Also, we are trying to reach out to our donor agencies, to our support kind of organizations at the government, etc., through these mails and through virtual meetings and all of that. We are apprising of the status of the programs. We are sort of convincing them on the virtual platform to develop our new programs, etc. And every activity today is more or less, sort of elevated to a kind of situation where it can be digitally performed. So that is the way digitally we have moved, and we have fast forwarded, if I may use the word that way, many of our programs and its activities and implementation of the programs.
That's very interesting to know. So where we've done something, but a lot of things are still to be, completed. My next question is for Mr. Jayant Kumar. The people that you work with, some of the most interiors, some of the most remote areas, difficult areas. And what are some of the soft spots in the digitization process that you need to take care of? You need to ensure that this does not, these interiors, these very pockets are not excluded.
One thing which is very necessary and is that the mainstreaming of the digital technology across the organization, right from the director of the organization to the last cutting edge, which is the most powerful edge of the organization, the staff, the person, the colleague who is directly in contact with that. He has to be also equipped and his handholding has to be done. So this is one gap which internally we feel is very, very necessary. So apart from required equipment, the required training, capacity building, skill building is also very, very necessary. And a continuous research within the organization, a practice within the organization to identify new tools and ways and how do you integrate that. So it's part of the strategic planning. So your strategic planning should involve all these things also in a regular manner. See, if I go to my other stakeholders, the most important, the one which you talked about the excluded ones. See, we work with the most excluded ones, the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, those who are diminishing tribes and all these things, and they don't have the equipment. They don't have the facility. So there is a difficulty in translating. Who does it? How does it? You and I can probably do it in a small spot, but it is a huge area where it has to be done. So how does CASA as well as other CSR organizations and different organizations, collaborators come together and ensure, request the state to provide those facilities in terms of, that's very necessary. Otherwise, what will be happening is we will be capacitating kind of organization, half of it. But we as service providers, we will not be able to work and deliver to those category of people for whom we exist. There are numerous small NGOs with whom we work, lots of them, financial and non-financial partnership on basis of campaigns and all these things. They don't have this capacity. They are our constituencies. We need to also find, because we are unable to connect further because they don't have the capacity. So we need to connect it. And so that's what. The workers within the organization also need a lot of support. And yes, so the donors will have to invest in that here. Panchayats need to be galvanized and given more and more technologies and capacities to work on a digital platform. So you cannot move forward in terms of their economic and social empowerment unless these cosmos of systems work collectively. I think if we are able to meet these gaps in our organization and with our stakeholders, I think the integration of digital transformation will be much, much beneficial to all, at all levels. It's very useful in agriculture, it is very useful in many other handicraft businesses and all these things. So there are many areas where potentially this has to be multiplied. Some experiences we see here and there, but it has to actually be multiplied. So these are some of the gaps which we have noticed within our organization as well as also with our different stakeholders.
Thank you for those insights. And moving to Mr. Pankaj Anand, in your work, the organization has always promoted involvement of communities in even the decision making. Do you think that the communities that you work with are ready for this digital transformation, the new normal that we are talking about? And how would you look at CSRs to work together with these communities and, come on board in this journey of digital transformation?
Shahrukh, let me begin by saying that as an eternal optimist, I would believe that all local communities, wherever they are, would like to embrace digital transformation that is happening. The pace is slow because we know that thus far, digital technology has been the preserve of people in large cities and towns, not the hinterland, hard to reach areas, and especially socially excluded groups in India, especially the Adivasis, Dalits in large numbers. So therefore, we need to keep this reality in mind. And this is a reality for all of us. So we have not been able to surmount the larger national challenge of addressing the issue of digital divide completely. But it is not insurmountable. I think a lot needs to be done in this area. We need to really identify the challenges to a digital divide. I would say there are many, many challenges, but accessibility, affordability, the general environment in which our digital world operates are three big challenges, but I'm sure there are many more challenges. The second is for the adoption of digital technology by citizens and communities by and large in hard to reach areas and by very, very excluded social groups lies in the fact that it has to deliver citizen-centric services and information. Now, let me come to the various possibilities that I see post-COVID. I think, as I said, that COVID-19 is forcing all actors across the board in government, CSOs, CSRs, everywhere, that this technology has the potential, can be deployed gainfully, if not in all contexts, but definitely in many, many contexts. But I think we will need to first address some of the challenges that I spoke about. I would say that CSRs and CSOs also have a role in making sure that the questions of affordability, accessibility, and the general challenges in the environment, which are barriers, the environmental barriers are addressed. So far, not many people have done many things in this regard, but I think the CSOs and CSRs will have to come together to think of innovative ideas of how to do it, what can be done, and also being mindful of what cannot be done in the short term. So I think these are really, really important things to keep in mind. The last thing I want to say is that the CSRs will have a very, very important role in understanding that if CSOs have to make digital transformation meaningful for the excluded communities in India living in very difficult conditions, they will have to first and foremost support a process of digital transformation in the CSOs itself. So I think some investment by CSRs would need to be made in the CSOs that they support. And I think these are two different things, but very, very interconnected.
That's useful. My next question is for Mr. Ghatak. And, again, post-COVID, we are seeing new initiatives coming up to facilitate, and re-entering of the migrant labor in the markets, hosting of new digital platforms, creating new opportunities for labor. And what do you think, what kind of an enabling environment needs to be created for the migrant labor population to access these platforms? What role do you think, needs to be played by NGOs and CSRs in creating this enabling environment?
I think there are quite a few ecosystem level challenges up there, which needs to be addressed for the CSOs and the CSR organizations to work together in this area. The number one is the accessibility part, what Mr. Pankaj already elaborately described. That accessibility is a big problem because most of the times we work in areas which are very unreached, far-flung, and remote. So accessibility to any kind of digital network is a problem, and is a big kind of obstacle to overcome. Second level challenges are that the community with which we work, many of them may not be having any kind of access to the digital network, including the phones or laptops and smartphones, etc. So how would they source the information? How would they get the information? So receiving information itself is a big challenge for them. So that needs to be addressed, somehow with these CSOs or small local kind of organizations which are working, including the government apparatus like PRI, etc. Now, once that that connectivity issue is to some extent resolved with this local CSOs or government kind of institutions, then the information needs to be broken down in terms of which is sort of understandable to the community, because language barrier is there. They do not have the accessibility and understanding of the issues that we discuss or say, etc. So CSOs will be required to simplify the terms of engagement with these CSOs and other program deliverables, etc. The other part is, once this, for smoothing this transition to digital kind of platforms, the other part will be very much critical is the compliance requirement. So we have to go to a situation where it is minimum compliance is required. For example, if we say that for every program, availing the benefits under any program, your Aadhaar card is required. So people may not be having all the time Aadhaar card, or they may be having, it is not easily can be located or can be obtained, etc. So whatever identification they have, like voter card or ration card, should suffice. Otherwise, we have seen many of the programs which suffer from this kind of inadequacy of, or too much of information required, or filling up is required for availing such kind of program benefits, etc. So that simplification is very much required. The third thing will be important is that what we call the cost of exclusion should not be more than cost of inclusion. The other part is that enabling the kind of organizations which are working, whether it is CSOs or government agencies, etc., at the grassroots level, they may not be very much aware about such kind of programs that and the digital kind of requirements, etc. So many times they do not know how to handle it, or maybe knowing, but then again, filling up data or filling up the information required in many times English language or maybe in some other language is a difficult proposition for them. So that needs to be simplified for them to be able to work to sort of supply the information required and to avail the benefits under different entitlement schemes and other benefits under different development programs. The other part will be some kind of handholding effort is required from the CSOs, basically for certain programs, like for example, let's say under NREGA. Many times the people, or the members at the government level may not be knowing what kind of, program design needs to be done, or which way the funds can be better utilized, etc. So they need to be handheld to develop such kind of programs, then develop and monitor such kind of programs to most the targeted groups, etc. So these kind of enablement is also required from the CSO side. So where CSOs and CSR organizations both have to work together to make these things happen. And this is probably going to take some time, because comfort in digitizing everything and putting up information, etc., may require some time. So it will happen, I'm sure, over a period of time.
So we come to the end of the discussion. And if I could ask all the panelists, if you could just spend maybe 30 seconds and give us one guiding mantra for, it could be for an NGO, for a social organization, or for the government, or for a corporate funder.
First of all, the organizations need to believe in the process of mainstreaming digital transformation, digital technologies in the organization. Second important thing is that we have to remember that it is not going to be solved in one go. So there has to be a graded response to this particular EA, and one has to plan in terms of immediate, in terms of medium term, and in terms of long term, and according to the stakeholders, different needs and requirements. These are very, very important things according to me.
So the first thing, Shahrukh, I would say is that there has to be a realization that when we say digital transformation is a process. It is not an event. That realization has to be there in the leadership across the organization, number one. The second is that digital transformation or digital technology for what? The answer lies in the fact that the digital technology and digital transformation is for attaining the organizational outcome, the change that you want to see in society, in communities, in the life of people. That has to be understood by everyone. And leadership across all levels in an organization has an important role in digital transformation.
I think we have to first start with the employees and with the other stakeholders to take them through this digital journey, in the sense to be familiar with some of the digital platforms, to engage with donors on a digital kind of medium, and without these physical meetings, physical travel, etc., how to manage your work, etc. So we have to be very savvy with that first. And then once we do that, the employees are quite adopted and quite savvy and quite comfortable with in interacting with their donors, interacting with their stakeholders and communities very easily and very comfortably. then they can move to the next level of engaging with other stakeholders and sort of help them to graduate to the level of digital kind of accepting the digital kind of mode for communications, meetings, etc. So which is yet to happen to that extent. But then again, yes, at the higher echelons of the government, it is happening already, but not at the grassroots level, not at the communities level. So that is what we think that it has to be the process.
So with this, we come to the end of our second episode of Parivartan Darpan. Thank you very much to all the speakers for your wonderful insights, giving us key takeaways, some learnings, as well as some positives coming out from this session. Digital transformation it's a journey, it's an ongoing process, it's an ongoing evolution. Unless you are able to solve the problem of accessibility and affordability, you will not be able to reach out to the remotest, sections, the interiors, the rural, the part which is deprived. And till all the stakeholders come together, so the CSR funders, the CSOs, the NGOs, the government, and all stakeholders can join hands, solve the problem, and then look at reaching out to all these marginalized sections. So once again, thank you very much. It was wonderful speaking to all of you, and take care. Goodbye.